All right, man, peace. So, brothers, in the aftermath of Khabib Nurmagomedov's dominant victory over Conor McGregor, the question begs to be asked. Number one, should Conor McGregor get an immediate rematch with Khabib? Number two, should he want an immediate rematch with Khabib? When we look through the annals of combat sports, oftentimes immediate rematches spell doom for the person who lost the first fight. Every once in a while, you do have occurrences where the person who lost the first fight is able to attain a certain level of revenge in that immediate rematch. Conor McGregor was able to do so. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
He has to go before the commission. We have to see what's going to happen with Khabib, with this whole mess. But
when you look at that neck crank really close, it's very obvious that Khabib was trying to break Conor's neck. There's no doubt about that. And as you can see here, Conor's a defeated man. He's finished. And Khabib did spit on Conor numerous times after the fight was halted, after it was called off by the referee.
But Conor McGregor has already called me wanting a rematch.
You heard Dana. He was with us yesterday, and he said Conor already wants a rematch. But does he actually deserve it, Max?
No. As a draw, yes, but not based on what he did in the fight. I disagree with Stephen A. I saw your commentary after the fight.
I agree with you, sir. I think that not only does Conor McGregor not deserve an immediate rematch, Dana White, if he hopes to maintain the asset that is Conor McGregor for an elongated period of time, he will try to stop him from seeking after that immediate rematch.
Conor didn't win any rounds. Conor lost the boxing match. Of course, Khabib was smart enough, because he's a very smart fighter, not to stand up with Conor to wear him down a little.
Yeah.
But all the significant punches were landed by Nurmagomedov.
Every significant blow in the fight was landed by Nurmagomedov.
Conor will not win a rematch. It's not just a matter of getting into shape. He needs to build himself back up, and this is an ongoing...
Conor McGregor at his very best would never have stood a chance against Khabib at any weight. There are just certain fighters that you come across that are bad matchups for you. All the greats have had a certain fighter that stepped into the ring with them who posed a problem for them. Like Muhammad Ali, he could not get a verifiable, real cemented victory over Ken Norton. The one bout that he was able to win without a doubt was that second fight. And really, you can make the case that had Ali not hurt his hand in the middle of the fight, that would have been a very dominant victory. As it turned out, it was a split decision victory for Ali, who was seeking revenge for losing their first fight where he had his jaw broke. But there are many fighters who just have fighters that they get in the ring with them and they just give them hell. Sugar Ray Robinson had a fighter by the name of Gene Fullmer that just gave him hell. And he was actually able to knock out Gene Fullmer with the perfect punch. But in every other fight, Gene Fullmer was on his ass, man. So it happens. And in the case of Conor McGregor, Khabib is someone that Conor will never, ever be able to beat unless he just gets lucky enough to land one crushing blow. And he will have to land the perfect punch to beat Khabib.
Ongoing debate I have with Dana White, Stephen A., after the Ronda Rousey loss. This happens in boxing, too. You don't take an immediate rematch. The old adage is, if you get knocked out, it's going to happen again in the rematch, only quicker.
Well, Max Kellerman, Sugar Ray Leonard went for an immediate rematch. Now, we all know he was not knocked out in their first fight against Roberto Duran, but he took an immediate rematch and he was able to be victorious because he utilized a proper game plan in the second fight as opposed to trying to resort to machismo. You never ever try to out-machismo a fighter like Roberto Duran. That made no sense.
What you do is you take the fighter, in Conor's case, a striker, and you build them. I understand Dana's point. It's like, hey, UFC has nothing but good fighters. You might lose to someone else in a smaller setting.
No, Dana White's real protocol is all these fighters can be built up. So if they want to sacrifice themselves on an altar, he's going to allow them to do that with the understanding that I can build up another big name in 7 to 8 months. Now, there are very few Conor McGregors that are going to come down the line with all the things that he offers in regards to personality and charisma. But Dana White understands that Conor McGregor eventually is going to be going anyway. We might as well get on board with building up the younger fighters who are going to replace him. So if Conor wants to throw himself on the funeral pyre, let him do so.
But still, you build Conor against a much lesser wrestler or grappler who's going to give him a similar look as Nurmagomedov.
Right, but you know what? Conor might lose to that guy as well. Conor just does not fare well against dudes who can grapple extremely well.
But not as good. No one's as good as Nurmagomedov, including Conor, and it's not close. You give him a similar look. If he wins that fight, you might do that again. Because, Stephen A., It's not just the half hour you spend or whatever it is on fight night. It's the 3 months in training camp that gets you in fighting shape. It's going through that cycle once or twice to be the best version of yourself. So at least I would still pick Nurmagomedov in a
Of course you would, because you have a brain. And if it came down to it, you do not want to look bad picking with your heart. Because many of these television personalities had their hearts broken when Conor McGregor got mollywopped.
A rematch eventually, but it would give Conor his best chance. And Conor is such a talented and special fighter and has so much heart.
He's talented and special when it comes to his ability to sell a fight. He's more gifted in his ability to sell a fight than to actually win fights against great fighters. Because he's been very fortunate. There's a reason why he has yet to defend his title in the UFC. Because to defend your title, now you truly have to fight great fighters. And I'm not calling Conor McGregor someone who's a coward or who tries to avoid great challenges. But now he's going to move into the portion of his career where it's truly going to show how much he wants to fight. How much do you really want to fight, especially when you have, or at least allegedly have, a whole bunch of money in the bank?
You'd have to give him a shot if he gave himself the best chance to win. Still, Nurmagomedov is a favorite, but at least now you go in thinking, hey, can Conor do it? An immediate rematch.
No, I really don't go into an immediate rematch or a rematch down the line thinking to myself, can Conor really do it? It's going to come down to how bad is Conor going to get his ass whooped unless he lands the perfect punch. That's all it comes down to. This is not like Ali Frazier where you have two great fighters trying to impose their will on one another. All this is can Conor run, duck, and hide to avoid getting choked out again?
Rematch, no one's going to think Conor can do it.
First of all, a couple of things. Number one, I respectfully disagree with you, and what I would ask you to do is stop acting like there are no exceptions to the rules. You cover the sport of boxing. You saw Lennox Lewis get knocked out by Hasim Rahman, come right back and knock him out the very next fight they fought. So it's not like it hasn't happened before. That's number one.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, I don't think that Max Kellerman's point is that it's never happened before. I think that he's just trying to say that it's extremely unlikely, especially with two combatants that have the skill sets that Khabib Nurmagomedov has as opposed to Conor McGregor. When we're talking about boxing, it's basically two boxers who are trying to see who's the better striker. So oftentimes it's easier to discern how good of a chance a boxer has in a rematch than a UFC fighter. In the UFC, elite level fighters are required to be proficient in so many different aspects of combat that sometimes it may be more difficult to discern if someone that you want to have a good opportunity to win a rematch actually has one. And when we look at all the measurables in regards to a potential rematch between Conor McGregor and Khabib, what exactly does Conor McGregor do better than Khabib for us to say, you know what, a rematch is going to look different?
One. Number two, even though with Kelly Pavlik, even though he beat Jermaine Taylor twice, the point is Kelly Pavlik knocked him out in the 7th round.
I will never ever in my life forget that first Kelly Pavlik versus Jermaine Taylor fight. I believe that it was in Atlantic City in New Jersey. I never heard a crowd more happy. There was never more of a racial subtext in the atmosphere than when Kelly Pavlik knocked out Jermaine Taylor. I've never heard Jim Lampley as happy as he was, or Larry Merchant as happy as he was the night that Kelly Pavlik knocked out Jermaine Taylor.
First go round, second time they went the distance, it was a far more interesting fight. Here's the point that I want to make to you about what I saw Saturday night. The reason why I think Conor McGregor deserves a rematch is not a matter of winning or losing. The question is, do I think he could potentially put forth a better showing? The answer is yes. Now,
well, hypothetically speaking, he could put forth a better showing if he tries to run more. That's about it. But one can say Khabib could also put forth a better showing, because there were numerous opportunities that Khabib had early on in the fight to go for the kill in regards to the chokehold, and he let Conor get away because he wanted to punish him. That was very clear, that Khabib wanted to punish Conor McGregor. So if we're saying that Conor McGregor would make a viable opponent for Khabib in a rematch because they have selling points, absolutely make it happen. But if we're talking about Conor McGregor having a realistic chance to win, no, not really. But it depends on what your definition of a realistic chance to win is. If you say 10% is a realistic chance to win, then okay. Because that's about what I give Conor McGregor. I give him about a 10% chance to beat Khabib.
Conor McGregor talked a lot of talk, talked a lot of smack, and I watched closely, even though I thought that he could possibly win because I thought he would catch I knew that if it was a grappling match, it was wrestling, he had no chance. I knew that. But what I thought was, while Nurmagomedov was coming in, that Conor could catch him. That clearly was not the case, because not only is Nurmagomedov a supreme wrestler, he got low, he didn't stay high at all.
And he's a better striker than he got credit for. And Conor McGregor is not as good with his striking technique as he gets credit for. What he is a very powerful puncher for a UFC fighter. But in regards to his overall skill set as a striker, he leaves a lot to be desired. His defense is lacking greatly. And his reflexes are not particularly good, especially coming off of a 2-year layoff. I thought his hands and his feet were very slow.
He wore him down before he got in the back so much. I disagree with you about round 3, but that's...
I give Conor credit, though. He has a good chin. Well, he was getting his ass whipped while he was on the ground there. He took a few flush shots to the jaw.
That's all. Other than that, Nurmagomedov...
That was Conor's best round. I still thought he was.
Other than that, Nurmagomedov destroyed him. But I thought Conor McGregor had the 3rd round by just a little shred. My point is he was still getting beat up.
If you were looking for a round to give Conor, the 3rd round was obviously the round. It could have went either way. But if you felt sorry for Conor, then you could give him round 3.
Here's the reality. When I look at Conor McGregor, I think the part that cannot be ignored is the fact that there was a 2-year absence. And never, ever, ever, and I don't mean this disrespectfully in any way, because I love her, never mention Ronda Rousey in the same breath as Conor McGregor. When she lost her fight to, I forgot who was the first one,
Holly Holm.
The girl.
Holly Holm?
Yes, Holly Holm.
Yes.
Holly Holm.
The boxer.
That's right.
Yeah.
When she lost the first fight,
The Australian.
she was so shattered. She went on the show, Ellen, and talked about how she thought about killing herself.
The reason why she did that, Stephen A. Smith, was because she felt like she let down all of her fans and her cult of personality. Ronda Rousey, while she was on top, was the biggest spoiled brat in all of professional sports. Because she can go anywhere. She can go to ESPN. She can go to Fox Sports 1. Any news outlet that interviewed her allowed her to project whatever energy she felt like projecting. She could curse. She can carry on. She could disrespect other fighters. She could talk about female fighters and athletes. She could talk about male fighters and athletes. She could call people soft and weak and dumb and all this other stuff. Nobody ever checked her because she represented the warrior aspect of the mother goddess. And all of it was a facade. And like most modern day super liberal women, it's all bluster. As soon as the cover was taken off of what she actually represented, you saw there was nothing inside. Nothing at all, nothing of substance. And that's why she was ready to kill herself. Because she defined herself based off of what society expected of her, which was to be unconquerable like the mother goddess. And when she finally got conquered, she had nothing left. That's why she was ready to kill herself.
Because psychologically, everything was predicated on her confidence and
being undefeated.
No, not her confidence, her arrogance, her bravado. Confidence implies substance. Confidence is something that's rooted within you. Arrogance is only about the exterior.
Being invincible.
All of this other stuff. Conor McGregor
is a different fighting mentality.
He's truly that dude in terms of his mentality.
That's right.
This dude is truly the guy.
And you know what, Stephen A? He has to be protected.
This is why I stated that if Conor McGregor were to, by some miracle, be able to defeat Khabib in a rematch, now all of a sudden he truly becomes the UFC version of Muhammad Ali.
Protected from himself now.
Hold on, I got you. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. If you don't get your butt kicked, you're going to get your butt kicked.
Then he's going to have to be protected from Nurmagomedov.
I got you. I'll let you speak. Here's my deal. If you remember, he loses to Nate Diaz. He comes back, moves up 25 pounds, and beats him. All I'm trying to say is that, yes, if I had to bet my money, of course I would bet on the Nurmagomedov. But let's not act like it's beyond the realm of comprehension to give Conor a chance now that you're back in the UFC after a 2-year layoff.
Yeah, I give him 5 to 10% chance.
You got your butt whipped, and who's to say he can't come up with something?
Of course, there are exceptions. You came up with a couple of good ones. One, you don't always get knocked out sooner. Sometimes you put up a better effort. Mosley and Vernon Forrest, whatever. There are examples of that. Even sometimes a fighter can win an immediate rematch. For example, Lennox Lewis and Rahman. Rahman was not the better fighter than Lennox Lewis. That's not the point. Lennox Lewis.
Well, it kind of is the point, because what Max Kellerman is getting at is that when you're looking at an immediate rematch, oftentimes, if the fighter who won the first fight was the better fighter, it makes it more likely that he's going to win the second fight. Now, if by some miracle the fighter who was not the better fighter won the first fight, then we could put a little bit more credibility into the notion that the better fighter will come back in the second fight because maybe he just had an off night. That's what Max Kellerman is getting at. For example, when you look at an Ali and a Joe Frazier, I think that most people would attest to the notion that Ali was a slightly better fighter than Joe Frazier, even in the first fight. But Frazier was more focused, he was in better condition. Ali had the layoff. So in the second fight, even though there was the notion that Ali was over the hill, there was also the notion that Frazier was over the hill by 74 because he just gotten blitzkrieged by George Foreman. So when Ali was able to defeat him, it was not that big of a surprise because people had commonly thought that Ali was overall the better fighter in the first place. That's all Max Kellerman's trying to say.
Oh, what was your point?
But however, there is nuance to it. Lennox Lewis was an Olympic gold medalist, a dominant heavyweight champion. Rahman was a nice contender. The point is, Nurmagomedov is the
Stephen A. Smith doesn't get it. For him to say so, there's a certain way that boxers are evaluated when they win gold medals in the Olympics. That is why it was so important to Floyd Mayweather that he win the gold medal. And when he was robbed of the gold medal and he got the bronze, that hurt him. Because when you come out of the Olympics and you get the gold medal, you basically get the red carpet treatment to your first championship title shot. It happened for Ray Leonard. It happened for Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. It happened for Oscar De La Hoya, so on and so forth. You will get that accelerated trip to your first championship title shot. Now, Floyd Mayweather, even though he got the bronze, he was still considered the best fighter. And when you go back and you look at his Olympic bouts, Pernell Whitaker will show up to his Olympic bouts. I believe that they had the Olympics in Atlanta in '96. And for Floyd Mayweather's first fight as a professional, Ray Leonard showed up to his first fight. So it was commonly known in boxing circles who Floyd Mayweather was and what was expected of him as a professional. That's Max Kellerman's point when he brings up Lennox Lewis as being a gold medal fighter. Gold medal fighters are viewed as the elite of the elite in the amateur boxing ranks, and they're expected to be very successful in the pros.
Undefeated, invincible, blue chip, best pound for pound fighter in the game guy, best ground and pound guy.
Who came into the fight with people believing he had a questionable jaw.
Yeah, however,
that's what they were saying.
Hit him with
I had never seen him. I had never seen him other than on video with highlights. I had never seen him before Saturday night. But they were saying, I'm talking about UFC pros.
He fought a southpaw, who hit him with the left hand, and they said he was shook. He was not shook by it.
They were saying he had a questionable jaw.
They were wrong. But the point is that if you want to give Conor an actual chance to win, was he inactive? Did that make him a lesser fighter? Yes, he'd be better if he was active. You gotta get him reps against a guy who looks like Nurmagomedov with his wrestling or grappling even. It can even be in Brazil.
Well, you know what, Max Kellerman? The problem with your theory, and it makes sense, but that's only a viable option when you have a commissioner that actually cares about the fighters. Dana White does not care about the fighters. He just does not. He views them as pieces of meat. So why should he be concerned with tune-up fights? He's one of these guys who thinks that champions should be fighting the best fighters every fight. He does not believe in showcase fights or showcase events. Now, boxing is a little bit too far on the other end of the spectrum. There are too many boxing champions that have too many showcase events and not enough big fights. In the UFC, the champions are expected to have all of these kill-or-be-killed fights and not enough showcase events. So if they were to find some way to meet in the middle in regards to their overall business paradigm, I think that both sports will be better off.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has to be someone who's going to take him down, try to ground and pound. He's at a lesser light than Nurmagomedov.
I don't want to hear that from you. Not from you, because you religion. Again, like I said to Ryan early in the show, I've been watching you for years.
Yeah,
you cover boxing. The fact of the matter is you have seen better fighters step into a ring and get caught.
Yeah, but that's
you have seen that.
But that you want to maximize, you want to optimize Conor's chance of catching.
But we're not talking about.
And you also want to see if you can elongate Conor McGregor's career because he is the cash cow of the UFC right now. That's the point, Stephen A. Smith.
Talking about that, you're talking about one-sided. You're talking about winning or losing. I'm talking about whether or not it warrants a rematch. That's all I'm saying.
Not an immediate one.
Well, no.
An immediate one is.
From a business perspective, it does warrant an immediate rematch because you already have the storyline. But from a logistical perspective, no. Conor McGregor would need at least 2 fights to get ready for Khabib. At least 2.
How does it
back up with a softer opponent. I get it.
I talked to Dana about this after the Rousey loss. Say whatever you want about her mentality. It was more pronounced with her. It's true. But if you put her back in, like she was in with a striker. She tried to stand up. She got beaten. It destroyed her ego, the whole thing. Conor is putting up a good front. He's got heart. He will take an immediate rematch. He will be beaten again. Everyone knows it. So why go through with the fight? Give him a chance to win.
What do you mean he will be beaten again? What I'm trying to say to you...
He will be beaten again, Stephen A. Smith. For you to act like you don't know that, I have to believe that you're being a bit disingenuous. At best, I will give Conor a 10% chance to beat Khabib in a rematch. In what realm of combat is Conor discernibly better than Khabib? That's the question. Is he better on the ground? No. Is he better in the clinch? No. Is he better against the gate? No. Is he better standing up? That's not even discernible at this point.
Use this. I wouldn't bet for him, no doubt. But let's not act like he don't have a chance. Anybody's got a chance. The man's got some...
What about the first fight made you think he has a chance at a rematch?
What I'm telling you is that I think that if Conor hits you, he can hurt anybody. And as long as that's the possibility, I think it warrants
a rematch. Wait. I need to bring this up. If you are...
We need to bring every damn thing up. The fact is, listen, the bottom line is this. Conor McGregor, with his skill set, the fact that he had a 2-year layoff, I think that he would be better, have a better chance in a second go-round than he ever did in the first.
Ever since...
I agree with that, but that does not mean that he deserves an immediate rematch, Stephen A. Smith. He had 0% chance. Well, you know, I'll say he had 1% chance to win that first fight. Because as I stated before that first fight, if he were to land a flush shot on Khabib, now in a rematch, one would think that his timing will be better, that maybe his punches may be crisper or sharper, maybe his footwork a little faster, he'll have a better game plan having seen him. So he'd have a better chance. So that 1% may go up to somewhere between 5 and 10. But still, he don't have a real chance to beat Khabib. Like, come on.
Since Shamrock in the rematch with Gracie, UFC 5, learned, okay, let me stay out of submission holds and strike where I can. Ground and pound has been extremely difficult to beat. This guy Nurmagomedov, which is why I brought him up on the show 2 years ago, is as good as I've ever seen. Maybe the best I've ever seen it doing that. Conor was out of his depth. So if what you're saying is Conor will have a better shot to catch him on his feet and win, that is a 1 in a...
Thank you, sir. I wouldn't go quite that far. I would say 5 to 10 in 100. But continue on.
The much better shot is if Conor gets better at defending against ground and pound and getting out of that and getting back to his feet. That is not going to happen in one training camp.
What you're giving me is a...
Well, the problem with that, Max Kellerman, and I understand where you're coming from, that would be something that may be a more realistic alternative in regards to a fight plan if Conor was known for being a cardio horse. When you combine the fact that Conor's not great on the ground with the fact that his cardio has always left something to be desired, his stamina has always been an issue, I have a hard time believing that he's going to be able to avoid getting taken down by Khabib over the course of 5 rounds. And Khabib is a cardio horse.
Is an ideal scenario, which I respect. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm trying to say is that if I'm talking to Chael Sonnen and I'm talking to Gilbert...
Look at Khabib. That man look like he's trying to crack a walnut.
Gilbert Melendez, and they're talking about how they were surprised that Conor didn't get beat up earlier because of the 2-year layoff and the superior...
The reason why he did not get beat up earlier, Stephen A. Smith, is because Khabib wanted to make the fight last longer. Khabib wanted to choke the man out in the last 20 seconds of the 5th round and beat that man over the course of the fight. That's why. This is what Stephen A. Smith is not figuring out. Khabib could have ended that fight in the 2nd round if he wanted to, when he had Conor on the ground pounding him out.
Real wrestling prowess of Nurmagomedov, how he was able to ward him off even though he was on his back most of the time. I'm saying, excuse me, I would be interested in seeing what he can do.
No.
Stephen, I don't know what the hell he's watching. He said Conor was able to ward Khabib off even though he was on the ground. Khabib allowed the man to survive, Stephen A. Smith. He was playing with him.
In a second go-round, without a 2-year layoff.
What you're saying and what Chael is saying, who's a great commentator, by the way, what you're saying is Conor is such a special fighter that he maybe could do it. I agree. Conor McGregor has special qualities. And what I'm saying is don't waste that in an immediate rematch. So
that's all it takes to require a rematch. You did you need to sit up there and massage his ego and all of this
stuff. You got to get his skills done too on the ground.
On the ground and pound defending him.
Yeah. Think he's going to get with Apollo Creed, teach him how to do the new thing like in Rocky III?
Absolutely. And that is a very pertinent analogy, Max Kellerman. You're correct. Because in the aftermath of Rocky getting his ass whooped by Clubber Lang, he had to be totally rebuilt from the ground up, not just skill set, but also his mentality. That's going to have to happen with Conor McGregor.
Clear, he didn't want to be at last night.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things transpire in regards to them making an immediate rematch or not. So peace.